I just left the 49ers locker room here at State Farm Stadium where it was a hat and t-shirt celebration. That's right, the 49ers have won the NFC West. They had the commemorative hats and they had the commemorative red t-shirts. It is a done deal. The 49ers at 11-3, who had already clinched a playoff berth, have now won the division for the second straight season. And it was quite a scene in there because obviously Brock Purdy is now the leader for the NFL MVP award, but Christian McCaffrey is also making history. Christian and Trent Williams actually did their press conference together, so that was quite a sight. And some of the questions are now, what's it like to have two MVP candidates on the team? And Brock Purdy, we've talked so much over the past year about his humility and how that's led to him just being such a stable presence for the 49ers. And I think the perfect presence on a team with so many stars. This is definitely not a me-first environment for the 49ers, even though it could be with how many stars they have. Brock Purdy literally said, I think Christian should win the MVP. I mean, just think of the humility here. Think of the fact that Brock Purdy is the favorite to win the MVP award. That's something that could be potentially very lucrative for him, winning the NFL MVP. And he's out there in press conferences not afraid to say that he thinks his teammate should win it. And let's just zoom out here. You talk about MVP, you talk about Offensive Player of the Year. I think that just the nature of football in general means the quarterback is almost always going to win the MVP because the quarterback is the most important position. And Brock Purdy's performance has been head and shoulders beyond every single quarterback in the NFL. So he's the odds-on favorite, but there still is debate. There still is chatter about, he's being carried by his teammates. And regardless of how ridiculous that is, it's obviously a team effort for the 49ers. Regardless of how ridiculous that is, the fact that Brock Purdy is man enough to step up in a press conference and say, I think Christian should win the MVP, the fact that his level of humility is in such a team-first place, I think that tells you so much about what needs to be known about Brock Purdy and the fact that his personality can lead this team. Today, he was, again, fantastic. And this 49ers offense, I talked about it with Christian McCaffrey in the locker room. So many parallels to the greatest show on turf, Rams. McCaffrey, 15 games in his career now with a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. That ties Marshall Faulk of the greatest show on turf, Rams. Kurt Warner has the record in the NFL since the merger for yards per attempt, 9.9. Brock Purdy today was close to that number, a little bit lower, but this 49ers offense is damn near what that greatest show on turf Rams offense with Kurt Warner hit in yards per attempt. Adjusted net yards per attempt, all those numbers historically good for the 49ers. And then, the player parallels, Faulk, McCaffrey, Warner, Brock Purdy, obviously Isaac Bruce, Brandon Ayuk. They had Torrey Holt on that team. Orlando Pace was the left tackle. Trent Williams, the left tackle for this 49ers team. It is an impressive array of talent, and the 49ers rode that array of talent on this field here in Arizona today to win the NFC West for the second straight season. Fred Warner had an interesting point. I talked to him a little bit, and I said, hey, you guys gave up over 200 yards rushing today. It wasn't pretty. They're missing their two stalwart defensive tackles, Javon Hargrave and Eric Armstead. I asked Fred, though, could this have a little bit of a galvanizing effect? It was obviously an ugly performance against the run, against the Cardinals here, but you have the Baltimore Ravens next week. It's a good opponent. Maybe they're going to see something they think is a weakness. Maybe they think they can get the 49ers on the ground next week with Lamar Jackson and company. But, maybe a poor performance out here today can anger the 49ers defense enough to get it together before the game against Baltimore. And Fred Warner wholeheartedly agreed with me. He said that Baltimore is going to think that there are holes in this defense. And the 49ers recognize that there are holes in this defense. But, when a team is as dominant as the 49ers are, and they won today, by 16 points again, right? They're winning these games by 2 and 3 possessions. Sometimes you need a little something to keep the fuel going. And just playing Baltimore at home on Monday Night Football is going to bring a lot of fuel in and of itself. But I think that this defense, especially with an extra day of rest, is going to be striving hard to fix some of the tackling issues and some of the run defense issues that we saw on this field today. You always want a little bit of extra motivation, Fred told me, before you play a massive game. And this next game against the Ravens is going to be absolutely huge for the 49ers. And it wasn't a great game for Fred. He missed a lot of tackles. We'll see the count tomorrow. But the 49ers do expect to get Javon Hargrave and Eric Armstead back sooner rather than later, perhaps as soon as Christmas against the Ravens. And I think that can make this defense look a whole lot better. Other locker room intel today, I went in there and I talked to Charvarius Ward. And actually, the first guy I saw was Ward, and I said, you think you're an all-pro player? And he said, solidified. 2 interceptions today, solidified all-pro status. That's what he thinks. Fred Warner said the same exact thing. He said solidified. Remember that Charvarius Ward entered this game leading the NFL in pass breakups. And he said over the course of the week that all he had to do was turn some of those PBUs into picks, into interceptions, and that he'd be considered one of the best in the game at the cornerback position. And today he did just that. This is a fun fact. Charvarius Ward, over the course of the week, because catching the ball from the jugs machine, the machine that spits out the ball at you to work on your hands, that's one thing. But catching it from a live arm is another. So he got Sam Darnold, the 49ers backup quarterback, and had Sam throw balls to him over the course of the week and practice catching them. So the 2 interception opportunities today for Charvarius Ward, he capitalized on both, didn't drop it, and he said, I'm probably going to have Sam Darnold throw to me every week moving forward because it worked today. So Ward now, I think 22, 23 pass breakups, still leads the NFL, 4 interceptions and a pick 6. That was his first time scoring since Pop Warner football. He didn't score as a corner with a pick 6 in high school, didn't do it in JC, didn't do it in college, and did not do it in his initial NFL years with the Kansas City Chiefs and then last season with the 49ers. So Ward on his way up for San Francisco. That was impressive today. The coverage was awesome for the 49ers. Pass defense, when they got Kyler Murray to pass, they had almost no issues today. It was the run defense that needs fixing, but that's obviously where the injuries were. And I think that the 49ers' best run defense in this game might have been their offense, right? Their offense, which kept Arizona off the football field today. That was huge for the 49ers. If you kept Arizona on the sideline, or if you outscored them enough so they couldn't turn around and run the ball, so they had to sit back and pass, that's how you won the arm wrestling match. So sometimes the best defense is a good offense, and I think that's what the 49ers delivered today. Team effort, as it always is, it has to be, and I think we entered this game saying the 49ers are going to have to pull a little bit more weight offensively just because of those injuries. But finally, I just have to circle back to the big picture, because Brock Purdy is now the odds-on betting favorite by a mile to win the MVP, as he should be. Dak Prescott didn't play well. They got blown out, the Cowboys did, by the Bills, and Josh Allen didn't even hit 100 passing yards in that game in the rain. So Allen would be your other peripheral candidate, but it's Brock Purdy in the firm lead. But even he's humble enough to say, hey, I think Christian McCaffrey should win it. And then he says, I think that this is a team full of MVPs. So Brock Purdy gets it. He understands that football is a team sport. Everybody's so individualistic in their analysis these days. Some teams are even individualistic in the NFL. It's hard. It's a professional sport, right? Guys are out there to make money. But the 49ers have found a way to create a true team-first fabric, which is so well illustrated by the fact that Brock Purdy is not afraid to get up there in front of the cameras and say something that's going to be broadcast to millions of people. This is obviously going to make the rounds. He's not afraid to say Christian McCaffrey should win the MVP, even though he himself is the favorite. I think Christian, he's going to be your favorite for Offensive Player of the Year, because you look at Tyreek Hill. He didn't play this week. Tyreek's having an awesome season. But what McCaffrey's doing in the historical conversation with Marshall Faulk, you saw some of those runs should only be 5-yard runs. They turn into 15-yard runs. He's meshing so well with the 49ers offensive line. He's making guys miss in the hole where there's no room at all to get away, but they can't even touch him. And then he's running all these sensational routes. There was the point today where Brock Purdy got hurt, left shoulder stinger, and then boom, the 49ers scored a few plays later after Purdy came back into the game, hit Christian McCaffrey working out of the slot in the end zone. So he's such a dominant, transcendent player. I think Christian McCaffrey is the best player in the NFL. I think Brock Purdy's the most valuable player in the NFL. I think that's the summary that most people will come to, but what really matters is that this 49ers team is the best in the NFL, the most loaded in the NFL, and it appears that they have the attitude of cohesiveness and teamwork to harness all that talent and surge to the top of the league. They have now used all of that to surge to the top of the NFC West. They have clinched the division here in Arizona. The next step for them is to clinch the number 1 seed. Part of that process is going to be trying to beat Baltimore next week in a showdown at Levi's Stadium at home. And then beyond that, the 49ers will try to win a Super Bowl. So far this year, they've been historically good. That was fleshed out on this field in Arizona today. And the story will continue next week against the Ravens on Christmas Day. Monday Night Football, Levi's Stadium. Once again, 45-29. 49ers beat the Cardinals. They're NFC West champions in remarkable fashion. We'll talk to you soon.